Unified School District Board of Education, and we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance by Regina Safey, our student member.
Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We will now observe a moment of silence. Thank you. Item number 1, adoption of the agenda. Are there any changes?
No changes, Mr. Ferris.
In that case, we will move on to item number 2, approval of the minutes of the regular and special meetings of February 16th, 2023, and the special meetings of February 17th, 2023, and February 13th, 2023. If there are no corrections, they will stand as presented, and we move into programs and presentations. Dr. Ostash.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. We are really pleased this evening, so let me pull up a document here, to have our robotics team from Burroughs High School, just great young men and women. Mr. Jacotin's in the audience. Thank you for being here and leading this great team. And I want to give just a little overview this evening of some great things about them, and then they'll come up and showcase some of their work. I want to highlight that our robotics program is a club, and our teams face many other competitors who come from programs who might have dedicated class time. But ours come in before school, during lunch, on free periods, and stay late in the afternoon or come in on weekends to maintain a competitive robot. That is a particularly impressive feat considering most of these students balance robotics activities with sports, music, theater, and academic demands. This year marks the return of the middle school robotics program, and that is not only great to offer our students earlier exposure into this STEM opportunity, but it could also help to better prepare our program for the opportunities in high school and beyond. We're going to hear about many awards and achievements that our students worked for this year. As with anything worth doing, there were also unavoidable challenges they had to overcome. And as educators, we understand the real value of this program is not so much in winning, but more so in how they work through the obstacles and what they learn from them. So at this time, I'd like to invite the Robotics Club to come up and talk to us a little bit about what you've been doing.
Hi, we just want to start with little introductions, who we are, what we do. I'm Juliana Davignon, and I manage this team.
I'm Logan Elwell. I was the co-captain of this team.
It's very tall.
Hi. Hi, I'm Michaela Wico, and I was part of the documentation team, and I also do a little bit of the building.
Hi, I'm Roxanne Boggs. I'm one of the documentals, and I also build.
Hi, I'm Elijah Rosal, and I'm the main programmer of the team.
Hi, I'm Amanda Huynh, and I am both a builder and documenter.
I'm Matthew Sorensen, and I'm part of the building team.
Hello, I'm Kieran Rank. I am the driver of the robot as well as a builder of it.
Okay, we have prepared a quick little video of just our robot and everything, just quick things of what it does. So, for an introduction into robotics, the objective is to build, design, and code a machine that can perform specific tasks in competitions. For this year, our goals are spinning the rollers to the designated color and to shoot frisbees into the baskets.
Why is robotics important? Robotics offers a way for students to be creative and innovate. This club teaches time management, commitment, and critical thinking skills. Team members learn to overcome challenges and think outside the box. And this club provides a head start into STEM and future careers that students might want to take part in.
Here's a little bit of the overview of the season. For the first time in Burroughs Robotics history, all 3 teams have made it to state. And additionally, the Murray Middle School also made it to their state equivalent for their competitions. Throughout the competitions too, all teams won awards, with the junior varsity team and the freshman teams getting the Innovate Award, as well as the Build Award very recently. And the varsity team got the Current League PM Championship award. Yay.
Robotics is an all-inclusive team. We are committed to the club, spending hours after school working on improvements and designs. Through the time we have worked together, we have grown together and created friendships. Our JV team is the future of robotics and already showing leadership by helping teams when needed.
So what happens now? While our season may be over, this is not the end. We still have work to do. So our team will be helping the underclassmen who were leaving to work on new types of things, and we'll be helping them with coding tips and tricks and just learning anything that helped us while being in there. We are leaving behind a legacy of working on robots and in STEM, so we're really excited that we get to help people in future, or help our future careers. And we'd like to demonstrate our robots to you guys.
If you'll give us just a minute, we're going to come around so we can see.
Okay. So the one that's currently being driven is what we use in our competitions.
So this robot can do a lot of cool things. It has that flywheel. It's a little overpowered for our circumstances. If you look inside the robot on the base, there are 2 wheels that aren't powered by any motors, but instead are connected to shaft encoders. Those are used to track our position on the field using a lot of geometry and trig. On the front of the robot, there is this roller. This is a passive design using a ratchet. What happens is when it runs into that roller, there's a wheel, and it'll go under it, and then it'll push it, and since the ratchet only engages in one way, when you pull back out, it won't move the roller at all. And then, I guess you can keep shooting.
So the one being driven around is our turntable robot. We wanted to create something that can be turned almost 360 degrees, so as we move across the field, it can shoot into the high goal.
Yeah, this robot wasn't fully realized with our time restraints, but the main thing that was done is this rotating turret platform. It can spin in 360 degrees. It would be able to spin forever, but there's a cable attached to it. This also had the wheels that were on this robot. We ported them over at the last minute. And it was able to completely independently track the goal at all times without breaking line of sight. We could drive it around and it would always be pointing at that. The whole reason this one wasn't able to fully get on the field in time for state was because with all these angles, getting a disc up into the shooting thing is very difficult. And we didn't fully anticipate all the trouble we found.
So we just spent time building these robots, and we've come together, and we had a great year. Thank you.
Well, that is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing with us this evening. Can we give them a hand, folks? That brings us to item 4, public hearing. There are no public hearings, so we move to item 5, reports and communications. We will go first to our student members report. Regina Safey.
Murray Middle School. The rally was a blast as students wore colors to support their grade level spirit points, introduced basketball players before the county tournament, and robotics showed off their engineering. Teachers even played against the students for a few minutes and lost by 1 point. The third quarter ends this week along with sign-ups for our variety show. Students will produce a second performance just before spring break as they show us what they got. Orchestra and band had their concerts on Tuesday, showcasing the growth in our beginning groups and the excellence of our concert performers before they head to Disneyland. Also next week, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory performances will be on the 16th and the 17th. In the world of competitions, robotics competed last weekend, and one of our teams made it into the second round. Basketball wrapped up its season with girls taking third and our boys winning the consolation bracket. Lastly, M&M Cross Country is back out and running as they prepare for the long-distance Junior Olympics events. And Mrs. Andres is helping our field event. Students prepare for the district competition. Go Mustangs. James Monroe Middle School. This week, the third quarter comes to a close, and we hit the ground running on our final quarter of the school year. Our basketball season came to a close, and eighth grade teams placed at the county tournaments. 8th grade girls in second place and 8th grade boys placed third. Tiger music programs are preparing for their festivals and final concerts of the year. It is always so amazing to see how far they come over the years, from hot cross buns to festival ready. The James Monroe Spirit Squad cheer and dance team is preparing for a competition in April. They have done an excellent job fundraising all year. Finally, while the snow flurries brought some joy to our Tigers, it is clear everyone is ready for spring break and some warm sunshine. Mesquite High School. We can't believe the third quarter is already coming to an end. We have had a very busy month. Volunteers from AmeriCorps visited our campus and gave a presentation to our students. AmeriCorps is a volunteer organization that helps support communities all over the United States through various programs like disaster relief work, house rehabilitation, and environmental stewardship through public land conservation efforts, to name a few. Students attended the East Kern Career Expo last Friday at the Mojave Airport. This was a great opportunity to learn about the various career opportunities in our valley, as well as a network and connect with many agencies and employers. Students enjoyed flight simulators, a robotic dog, and virtual reality activities, to name a few. ASB continues to volunteer monthly at the St. Michael's Food Bank. They are also busy planning this year's prom. Our prom will be held on Saturday, April 15th, and our theme is Roaring 20s. Sherman E. Burroughs High School. The spring rally, and especially the Blacklight Dance, was a big hit with students. It was space theme, included spirit days such as Out of This World Day and Glow Out. The end of the third quarter is tomorrow, so parents can expect report cards soon. With the end of the school year fast approaching, many seniors are receiving college decisions and are excited for graduation. The drama and music departments have worked very hard to produce the spring musical Cinderella. Opening night will be tomorrow, as well as a fairy tale spirit day to support the production. There will also be showings on the 11th, 17th, and 18th. Track and field, swimming, golf, baseball, boys tennis, and softball are at the start of their competition seasons and are gearing up for league matches. 3 robotics teams also competed at the state tournament last weekend. We wish them the best of luck in their upcoming competitions. ASB elections meetings were held yesterday and today, and the ASVAB was also held yesterday. Students are excited for spring break, which will be from March 27th to the 31st. We hope everyone has a relaxing break and comes back refreshed to finish out the school year strong.
Thank you, Regina, for keeping us informed on what's going on in our middle schools and our high schools. Did you have a comment?
Yeah, it seemed like there was some sort of wrestling thing that went down not long ago that didn't seem to make that report. Is there did we have anybody in the district do pretty well in wrestling?
I made it to the state tournament. It was awesome.
Thank you, Mr. Rockwell.
Well, congratulations.
Yes.
That brings us to reports from members of the board. Board members have any reports they'd like to make? I just wanted to comment that we were able to make it for most of the Kern County School Boards Association meeting. We did cut it a little short to make sure we got home not caught by the snow. Thanks again, folks, kids, for bringing that presentation to us today. I also wanted to let you know that next week I will be participating in Ledge Action Week, and I do have scheduled meetings with Senators Grove and Horta and Assemblyman Vince Fong and Devin Mathis. So we'll be, are you also participating? Great. So as delegates, both Mr. Rockwell and I will be participating in those meetings and sharing with them the concerns specifically focused on on the budget and specifically in areas that allow local districts to have more specific control and not to just give us new programs that have specific dollars attached to them, so that we can utilize the dollars on the best way for our districts and our students. So that's kind of the general thrust of what we'll be talking to those legislators about. Anything else from fellow board members? If not, we'll move to the superintendent's report. Dr. Ostash.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. Month 6 enrollment is 5,067 students. Last year this time was 5,042, so we're up 25 year over year. I'm glad we made mention of Regina. We've been missing you, but we've been talking you up, and we're glad to have you back, and glad you did so well with your wrestling season. I want to thank Las Flores Elementary School. We held a superintendent's council meeting this morning that was well attended. Thank you to Mary and Robert Campbell both for being in attendance. I want to thank Mrs. Tate and her staff and her parent volunteers who hosted an amazing spread of food and decorations. Even the fruit had gold glitter on it, and it was just an amazing deal. I'm always impressed. So I'm just grateful for my colleagues. Well, I'm also grateful for my colleagues, my cabinet leadership team, who are always very well prepared, had excellent presentations and good information to keep our parents informed. And I especially appreciated the engagement this morning. We had a lot of parents with questions and comments, and we had a great discussion, and there was just a lot of information that was shared, which is the whole purpose of holding those council meetings. So tomorrow is the end of the third quarter for secondary schools, which means we're 75% of our way through the school. I can't believe it. This time is flying. It's been mentioned, but I will highlight it once again that we do have our spring musical opening tomorrow at the Parker Performing Arts Center, and I appreciate the leadership of Mrs. Poole and the theater arts and the music program working together, and I know it'll be a great performance, and most importantly that we'll see talented actors and musicians in play. And speaking of student actors, last week on March 2nd, it was Read Across America Day, and Mrs. Poole and several BHS theater students cruised around the district, literally cruised around the district in a van or vans, and they did a marvelous job of acting out several books. The student actors read books, they acted out parts, they found ways for the young students to participate. They just absolutely loved it. It was fun and it was inspirational. And I know that seeds were planted in the minds of these young students who thought, you know, I could see myself acting when I get up there at Burroughs High School. So, and I know that was part of it. The most important part of it was just doing great things for our kids, but also to act as a recruitment tool, and I think that's really good. Really exciting, we saw a big, I call it a big Tonka truck, but it was a big giant dozer and whatever type of truck it was out on the New Richmond build site. We're literally moving dirt, and we're in the construction phase of the New Richmond Elementary School, which is really exciting. As I mentioned to staff and parents this morning at Las Flores, you know, the glacier under the water is the giant amount of work that's been done, and now we get to do the glacier on top of the water, which is the construction phase. It's an enormous task. I see Captain Vaughn and the crowd here. Appreciate you being here, sir, and all of the continued partnership we have which brings us to where we are. And so we'll have a new school soon, and that'll be a very exciting time. And speaking of excitement, I'd like to announce that we have a groundbreaking ceremony scheduled for Monday, April 17. We haven't nailed the exact time, but it'll be mid-morning. And of course, the ceremony will be held out on the build site off Ridgecrest Boulevard and Richmond Road. We look forward to that. I also want to offer my condolences to the O'Neill family. There was a very nice service today for Coach, I call her Coach Ruth O'Neill. We were so fortunate to have her as a tennis coach for many years at Burroughs High School, and I know she influenced students and athletes of all ages. She's just a long-time coach and influencer in our community, and so I ask that we all keep the O'Neill family in our thoughts. And I'd like to finish by saying that I'm not introducing him at this moment because he'll speak at the public comment part, but I'm excited that our new Burroughs High School head football coach here, Matt Fulton, great guy, alumnus from Burroughs High School, and he really wanted to introduce himself to the board and the community, and I appreciate that initiative. And so when the public comment opens, I know he'll come up and introduce himself. So Coach Fulton, I'm grateful you're here this evening. And that concludes my report, Mr. Ferris.
Thank you, Dr. Ostash. So that does bring us to report by members of the board for the Desert Area Teachers Association. Ms. Poole.
Good evening, Superintendent Ostash, President Ferris, board members, community data members. Really happy to see you all out there. Okay, I just came from our last dress rehearsal, and we actually did it for some Murray and Monroe kids, and it was phenomenal. So I'm still kind of on that wave. And I want to say that part of the reason that we're able to do a musical and that we're able to get community support is, I mean, there are a number of reasons, right? But part of the reason that I enjoy it so much is I feel completely supported by the admin on site, by really everybody in Ridgecrest. And it's just such an amazing feeling to know if I need something, I can get it. And I was thinking that while I'm very grateful for that, that's not something that's common, and that as a teacher, I'm accustomed to not feeling valued. And I don't mean that individually, right? I don't mean that individual admin are sitting there saying, I don't appreciate you, right? Because as a whole, there's a real sense of appreciating that the site, let me take a breath, I'm still back at, in the pack. I'm gonna break out in song in a minute here.
We'll wait.
Yeah. I would sing, but then I have to face Amber tomorrow, and that would not go well. So I feel as an individual, I think there's respect coming from a human level, principal to teacher. But the problem is bigger than that. It's beyond that, right? It's the system itself. I did a survey from data that I had mentioned. Most data members, most people on site appreciate their principals, feel comfortable talking to their principals. So that's a good thing. But when you look at the big picture, we as a group don't feel appreciated, and we don't feel that we're listened to. So one of the problems, right, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this before, except every month, is the testing. That this constant, you have to test your students, and we have elementary teachers who say, you know, I haven't gotten to that yet because, right, and there's a list of reasons. I had to go back and reteach because, you know, we had a student suffered a loss, and we spent some time talking about that, right? They're doing their jobs. And then to be told, well, you still have to do this test tomorrow. I don't give a test in my class. There are times I'm like, nobody has read, none of you read the assignment? Why am I going to give a quiz, right? Because you're all going to fail it. So we work things out, and I want to test them when they've had a chance to look at the material. And I get it done, right? And my colleagues get it done. But to say, tell us we need these results now, or we need these results, Can you get them? Can you get the kids there? Yeah, we probably can, but don't tell us it has to be on this date. And you need to start respecting the people that are in front of those kids day after day after day. You hired us, let us do our jobs. We need smaller class sizes, right? It's not fair to the students. Not fair to the teachers, it's not fair to the students, it's not fair to anyone to have these overcrowded classrooms. We need subs. It's not fair for teachers at secondary to feel the pressure. Can you please sub on your prep? No, I have prep for a reason, and it's not to sub. We can choose to. Some people like it. Good, that's great, right? But it needs to be a choice. Elementary, hey, look, you've got these kids today. Sorry that your lesson plan doesn't include them. So we're not able to do our jobs, which means it's impacting the kids. Now, most of these people here, they're awesome, right? So they're still going to be effective teachers. But we're really, really tired. We're being asked to do more and more and more, and we're doing it. But we're tired. We'd like to be listened to. We'd like to feel that support in the big general way and not just on an individual human way. So, that's it. We're just asking for us to be heard and respected. Thank you.
Thank you. Brings us to item 5, report to the Board of Trustees by the California School Employees Association.
Hello, School Board President, Board Member, Superintendent Dr. Ostash, staff, and community. I stand up here month after month talking about our subpar pay scale, the short staff problem that we've had, continue to have, and will continue to have if we do not put some serious work onto our pay scale, and the fact that we are severely overworked and underpaid. I'm constantly getting emails from my members who are at their wits' ends because of the lack of support and/or staff. Last month, we heard from several teachers who acknowledged the shortage in classified staff, as it has also begun to affect their workload due to being short-staffed. However, we, CSEA, are ready to help come up with solutions to fix these problems as we eagerly await to start negotiations with the district. I will not state the fact that I could go work for Panda and make more money with less stress. Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to item 6, communications from the public. The board will provide time during the discussion of each agenda item for members of the public to comment. At this time, members of the public may address the board on items that are not on the agenda. Comments should relate to items of public interest within the board's jurisdiction. The law does prohibit the board from taking action on items that are not on the agenda, but if appropriate, your comments will be referred to staff for response. When addressing the board, please state your name at the podium and limit your remarks to 3 minutes. In accordance with the board bylaws, the board will limit the total time of public comment to 30 minutes. Those wishing to address the board beyond that 30-minute time limit may do so at the end of the scheduled meeting agenda. I now open public comment.
Hello, everybody. My name is Matthew Fulton, and I've just been recently named the head football coach at Burroughs High School. I wanted to take a few moments to introduce myself to the board and to our community as well. And I want everyone to know how excited I am to be back here at my alma mater coaching for this program that has meant so much to me over the years. I graduated from Burroughs in 2004. I played from 2000 to 2003, and that includes the 2003 CIF championship team where we got runner-up. That meant a lot to me, and that was it feels like a long time ago, but it feels like yesterday when I walk back into the locker room and see the kids and all this stuff, so it's a lot of fun. From there, I played at Victor Valley Community College. I wanted to continue to play play football, play the level, the sport I love. From there, I went to Kansas, and I played at Kansas Wesleyan University and enjoyed that for 3 years there, which was a lot of fun. It was something I had never experienced before in the Midwest. When I came home and I was graduated, I wanted to continue my master's degree, so I went to University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and started my coaching career also. So at that time, I was traveling from Vegas to Victorville, where I was coaching running backs and linemen for them. I did that until I graduated, and at the time I graduated, I started coaching for Bishop Gorman High School in Las Vegas. But I'll tell you this, during my time here at Burroughs, there's nothing like Friday Night Lights. Saturdays are great, and I love them, and I've seen them at the D1 level to all the way down to the NAIA, so it's a lot of fun. But there's nothing like Friday Night Lights. And during my time here, really, Burroughs football was a spectacle, and so Friday nights were huge for us, and there was nothing like that. Ridgecrest is a football town, and we work really hard at that. To make sure that our kids have an experience that is worthwhile. Football is a people business, like you said, like anything we do, right? People are important. So everything that we do takes a lot of our community, takes a lot of people, parents, teachers, community to support that and to build a successful program. And that's what we're working towards. Our kids are working hard this off season right now currently. They're lifting weights, they're running, they're doing all the things that are required to be a championship level team on and off the field. But again, your support is integral and is appreciated at every level. Our kids are working hard, right? So all the way through summer and everything like that, this is their legacy. This is their time to build into that football tradition. My time is in 2003. This is their time. And that's what I want them to do. I want them to have every best experience that we can possibly provide. And Burroughs is, there we go. Well, I appreciate it. Our program, I look forward to seeing everybody out on Friday night. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt.
Hi, my name is Kathy McCoy. I'm a teacher at Pierce. I just got over the flu, and I was out for 5 days. I've never been out for 5 days. In fact, I've never been out for 4 days, and maybe in 20 years, 3 days. I got diagnosed with the flu, and I spent 5 hours writing lesson plans that could be used either digitally or with a sub, because I knew it was likely that it could have gone either way. My kids, I did not have a sub. One of the 5 days I had a sub. I wrote my lesson plans. I got on Google Classroom and designed it so that the kids would be able to do their assignments. My kids got split into several rooms because there were no subs. So some of my kids were able to complete the work that I gave them. Some of them did not start any of it. That means I came back to my classroom 5 days behind in my lesson plans with a group of kids who had done everything that needed to be done, that I then needed to figure out what they were going to do. And I'm 5 days behind, and I have 5 days worth of things to teach them, which puts me 10 days behind. So I'm looking at the pacing guide. I'm thinking about you need to be within 10 days of that. I know I'm not going to make it because I'm already a little behind because of various activities and things that pop up, like Mrs. Poole was talking about. So I'm now very behind. But I wrote lesson plans for 5 hours when I was coughing so hard I was throwing up, so that I could have things ready for my students for a variety of situations, knowing that it could be any of those things. I don't really appreciate that I had to do that. I don't appreciate that I had to make both digital lesson plans and lesson plans for an actual person in the room. I wish that I could have depended on there will be a substitute who could come to my room and give my kids that continuity of 5 days of here's what we're working on that your teacher planned that go along with the pacing guide, rather than doing work with second grade or work with fourth grade or wherever they might end up going, which means they were not getting the work done at their standard, at their grade level. We need subs. We need to do something. I know we all know this, and I know you're tired of hearing us say we need subs, but it's getting really hard. I almost didn't go to the doctor. I was so sick, but I almost didn't go because I knew I would probably have to write lesson plans, and I would probably have to come back to a mess, which I did. And we shouldn't have to feel that way. It's a job. It's not my life. I love my job. I love a lot of parts of my job. I don't like this part of my job. I don't like that I had to spend 5 hours while coughing so hard I was having to throw up so that I could have things ready for who knows what. That's not what we should have to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. It's been a while. My name is Tristan Kratz. I am a high school teacher at Burroughs High School. I've taught a lot of different subjects. currently teaching English and art and enjoying that. But last month at our staff meeting, my principal and admin presented us with some statistics that were very alarming. And this was where we are in differentiated assistance. And when I was looking at the issues that we are being confronted with in our schools, and most of the teachers there were eager to go, well, what do you want from us? What do we need to do? And that's our instinct. When you see a problem, we figure it out, and we have to come up with innovative ways to make it work and solve the problem. That is what we are required to do, and I don't always necessarily feel that on a larger level, like Ms. Poole was talking about, that urgency or that sensibility is as urgent higher up. Because when I look at what we were being addressed, what we had to address in that differentiated assistance, that's a staffing issue. When I look at assessments and common sense approach and staff retention and all the things that our union is fighting for, these are staffing issues. I'm not paid to staff. I am a staff. This town, I'm a product of Sierra Sands, and I'm very proud of that. But I grew up in an era where it was understood that we were innovators and that we were training innovators, not just in one section, but across the board. It was a very holistic push. We had a very strong arts program across the board. Math, English, all that, languages, it was all about the whole student on a lot of levels. We're going to change the world. And right now I feel like we're in a constant state of reaction rather than creation. And that's really what I expect my leaders to do, because that's what I'm expected to do every day when I walk in my room and have something new and different that I'm going to have to deal with, because we have that diverse group of kids. I want to see that happen for us as well. And I do feel that teachers are not being heard on as equal level in all parts in which this district affects us. Okay, I appreciate you being here, but I know that we can do a lot better, because that used to be what we were about. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sherry K. Brownie. I'm a teacher, TKK teacher in your current elementary. I'm here tonight but technically I'm on medical leave. 1 week post-surgery, and I shouldn't have to stand here asking for a permanent sub for me for the 9 weeks that I have to take off. I spent almost every February day after school to make my lesson plans, copy, get everything ready to go. I have lesson plans technically up to 11 weeks because I'm not sure when I get to come back. But the lack of substitutes is a big issue. I'm supposed to be home recovering, not worrying about who's in my classroom or if my kids are in my classroom. My principal should not have to stop being a principal for that day to be in my classroom because I don't have a sub. That's not fair to her. That's not fair to the rest of the campus, the teachers, or the other students. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Good evening, Dr. Ostash, Mr. Ferris, and board members. My name is Beth McCain, and many will tell you that I live at 674 North Gold Canyon. Most of you know me well enough that you know I don't come here for just anything. Class size is important to classroom teachers, but more importantly, to our students. In the 38.5 years that I have worked for this district, I have seen class sizes from 14 to 42. I can tell you that every child over 15 seems like 2 kids, and I can also tell you that every child over 20 feels like you have 3 or more additional children in your room. When we have class sizes of 26 to 38, like I did last year, we don't have as much time to help each child. Let me give you an example. I do guided reading groups. Yes, even with kinders. The recommendation is to only have 4 to 5 in a group when working with this age child. And I agree. But if I put 4 in each group and have 26 students, at 12 minutes per group at this time of year, that's 7 groups, which comes out to 84 minutes. Well, you say, put 5 kids in a group. That's still 6 groups. At 12 minutes per group, that's 72 minutes. And that's assuming that you can keep it to 12 minutes a group. Yes, and that's still over an hour. That's a long time for kinders to have to stay on task without me or another adult at their beck and call. Now, on the other hand, if I only have 20 students, or 14 like I did the year that we were being remodeled at Pierce, and so we were at VWIG, then I can have 4 groups, and it would take less than an hour. Kinder has a lot of material to cover. Believe it or not, only using an hour for guided reading would make covering everything else a lot easier. What other ways does it affect the classroom? Well, one, when I only have 20 or so students, I have room to spread students apart. When I have 26, as I do now, no, I take that back, I'm down to 23. And have 5 or 6 that need to be separated from the rest of the class or each other, I run out of options of where to put them. 2, when I only have 20 students, I can get around to help everyone in a rather speedy manner. When I have 26 or more, they get impatient waiting for me to get to them to help or check their paper. They don't have a very long wait time, especially at the beginning of the year. Finally, the more students, the more volume, and the more discipline problems. When children this age don't get enough attention quickly enough, they tend to cause more problems and get louder. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ruby Hoya. I am a special education teacher. I teach life skills. I would like to ask you to please pay paras more than Panda. My classroom has been short-staffed for 7 months. My paras get hit, spit on. They change students. They help the students that can't help themselves. But if they were to go work for Panda, they would not get hit, they would not get spit on, and they would be making more money than for the school district. I can't do my job without paras, so please give paras a higher pay and 6.5 hours. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak during public comment? If not, we will close public comment and we will move to item 6.1, Educational Administration, approval of an additional service agreement with Solent for a DHH teacher for the 2022-23 school year. Mr. Delbeck.
President Ferris, Dr. Ostash, members of the board, fellow staff members, and community members. Captain Vaughn. Approval of an additional service agreement with Solent for a DHH teacher. According to state and federal laws and regulations, school districts are required to assess students who have been referred for special education services in all the areas related to the suspected disability. A student must be assessed when first referred for a suspected disability and then considered for reassessment at least once every 3 years after qualifying for special education. After the parent or guardian signs the consent for assessment plan, the district has 60 days in which to complete assessment and hold an IEP meeting to discuss the student's eligibility. If the student qualifies for special education services, the district must provide those services according to the student's individual education plan or IEP. Schools all over the United States are experiencing severe shortage of deaf and hard of hearing teachers. The shortage is due in part to the limited number of openings in graduate programs and the increased need for deaf and hard of hearing teachers as the scope of their practice widens. School districts are feeling the shortage the most. Sierra Sands had contracted with Kern County Superintendent of Schools for DHH teachers for many years. On or around August 8th, 2022, Kern County Superintendent of Schools informed us they would no longer be providing deaf and hard of hearing or DHH services due to a severe shortage of DHH providers. Kern County Superintendent of Schools has 11 positions for DHH teachers and has currently only filled 3 of those. Subsequently, they can no longer provide Sierra Sands with a DHH teacher for the 22-23 school year. DHH services were scheduled to start for students on August 8, 2022. The district would like to contract for 10 hours a week for a DHH teacher with Solant. Solant provides virtual DHH services. The therapy is provided by a licensed DHH teacher qualified in the state of California. Financial implications, the estimate cost of the therapy service is .25 full-time, 10 hours a week, times 95 hours, 11 weeks, $10,450. This will be paid through the special education budget. It is recommended that the board approve the additional service agreement with Solant for a DHH teacher for the 22-23 school year.
I have a motion and second. Any questions or comments by board members on the subject?
Yes.
So you have is a teacher that's on Zoom?
Correct.
So how does that look like for the students?
So we do it with speech as well. We'll have a paraprofessional that goes in with them. We'd love to have an in-person one, but we don't have one right now. So depending on the service the student needs, whether it's Braille or whatever they talk about, that would be vision impairment. This is deaf and hard of hearing, so they'll talk through sign language or whatever they do to make sure the kid is getting their services. Now, most of our students that are deaf or partially hard of hearing are lip readers, so they can't get it wrong, and a lot of them have cochlear implants, so they can hear, but they still need services on how to use their equipment in the classroom.
Sure. Okay.
And so it's giving them access to their education.
Thank you.
So yeah, I mean, that's through the computer, the same way it's virtual, it's hard.
Yeah, I mean, we learned a lot in Zoom.
Yep.
Yeah.
How many deaf students do we have in the district?
Our numbers are, there's 2 categories. There's deaf and hard of hearing, and there's deafness. And there's 2 different, and I'll just give you a total because I don't want to, about 23.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments from board members? Any questions or comments from members of the public? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. Brings us to 6.2, board approval of contract with SEIS billing for Medi-Cal billing management system for the 2023-24 school year. Mr. Delbeck.
Okay, this one's a little longer. I will do my best to get through it, and please let me know any questions you have afterwards. The Medicaid program is a national health program designed to furnish medical assistance to families, to the aged, blind, disabled, and to individuals whose income and resources are insufficient to meet the cost of necessary medical services. Established under Title 19 of Social Security Act, the program is state-federal partnerships administered by the Department of Health and Care Services, DHCS. In California, it's referred to as Medi-Cal. The medical administrative activities, which is MA, programs offer a way for local government, LGAs, and local educational agencies, LEAs, to obtain federal reimbursement for the cost of certain administrative activities necessary for the proper and efficient administration of Medi-Cal programs. The MA program is funded by federal and local funds and is authorized under California Welfare and Institutions Code, Section 41132.47. California has developed rules and regulations for each program administration within the confines of the federal rules. Each LEA must have a signed contract with the Department of Health Care Services and approved claiming plan. Because of the compliant process involved, most school districts contract with a health care vendor for Medi-Cal billing services. Current considerations: the San Joaquin County Office of Education is a regional agency whose mission is to provide educational services, resources, and services to school districts. Beginning in 1852, San Joaquin County Office of Ed set an organizational philosophy and culture that ensures students come first, and every student, regardless of the circumstances, has the opportunity for a quality education. True to its philosophy, SJCOE reaches out by creating partnerships with local districts, regional programs, and community members and state government agencies to provide services and programs that would otherwise be impossible. San Joaquin County Office of Ed is recognized for the educational leadership it provides to local districts and bringing initiative solutions to education issues both inside and outside the classroom. San Jose County Office of Ed operates programs in more than 75 locations throughout San Joaquin County, including community schools, special education classrooms, migrant education sites. The Division of Comprehensive Health and Medicare program is a department within San Joaquin County Office of Ed, Educational Services, which fosters student health and well-being as resiliency by providing programs that support learning. In addition to providing SACE, it's a Special Education Information System billing LEA Medi-Cal services beginning in 2003. The Division of Comprehensive Health and Medicare program also fosters school nursing services, after-school health and Medicaid program, tobacco use prevention, education, substance abuse prevention, emergency response, and crisis management. It is our goal to build the capacity of our local, regional, and state level educators through renowned professional development and technical assistance. The Division of Comprehensive Health and Medicare program works with the community and statewide partnerships to provide optimal services for students and family. SACE billing current service agreement covers the following services: implementation and ongoing support meetings that will include special education director, LEA coordinator, fiscal staff, as well as many other people who provide LEA leadership. Practitioner training on billing requirements, use of both IEP and non-IEP building are provided as often as needed. Account management, including fiscal projections, compliance reviews and research, quarterly TSP report review, medical eligibility verification, electronic claims processing, claims analysis, specialized transportation billing, ongoing communication regarding current legislation and regulators, communication with DHS on behalf of the district when needed, and preparation, guidance, and support with fiscal reports, response time by email, they say 24 hours, ongoing technical support, other services as required, and provide exceptional customer service. Financial implications. The financial implications are unknown at this time. However, for client convenience, it's about 12% of what we would bill. The funds would come out of Medi-Cal billing. It's superintendent's recommendation. It's recommended that the board approve the service agreement with SACE billing as is.
Move the recommended action.
A motion and a second. Have any questions from board members? Comments? Any questions or comments from members of the public? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. That brings us to 6.3, approval of new career technical education pathway, production and managerial arts and film production course of study at Burroughs High School. Ms. Decker.
Good evening, President Ferris, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Ostash, staff and community. In December 2015, the district began applying for and receiving Career Technical Education Incentive Grants, or CTIC. To date, the CTE program at Burroughs has received $1,553,979. The purpose of the funding is to assist districts with the implementation of the CTE model content standards and to develop, implement, and sustain high-quality career technical education programs that are based on 12 essential CTE elements. And I'm not going to read all 12.
Thank you.
CTE, just the two biggies. CTE Element 1 is student-centered delivery of services. For all K-14+ college and career pathways, incorporate the removal of institutional or systemic barriers that impede the progress of students in achieving their education and career goals. This includes a renewed commitment to offer an engaging experience and support the diversity of individual student needs while accommodating their multiple entry points as they progress along a continuum of education and training or advance in a sector-specific occupation or industry. CTE element number 5 is high-quality integrated curriculum and instruction. Informed by labor market information, student interest, technology, industry standards, and real-world engagement through relevant work-based learning opportunities is essential to prepare students. Rigorous and aligned programs should be supported to guide students through relevant course sequences, both in person and online, and work-based learning opportunities leading to a mastery of standards, high school graduation, and transition to post-secondary education, training, apprenticeship, and/or employment as appropriate. Courses and programs may be designed to use cross-system strategies like dual enrollment or dual credit with community colleges and universities or other articulations to create a seamless student experience and avoid unnecessary repeating of courses or other inefficient practices to facilitate on-time post-secondary graduation where appropriate. Stackable badging and credentials can ensure the frequency of assessment and a value-added outcome. College and career readiness is the foundation of California's new accountability system. The College and Career Indicator is one of several indicators reported on the California School Dashboard. It represents the percentage of high school graduates who are prepared for college or a career. Burroughs High School currently offers 6 CTE pathways for students: welding and materials joining, engineering technology, cabinetry, millwork and woodworking, food service and hospitality, public safety, and systems diagnostics, service and repair. Adding production and managerial arts will provide juniors and seniors with another career industry to pursue. There will be a cost of approximately $3,000 for the proposed textbook, Looking at Movies 7th edition, pending recommendation and approval by the District Instructional Materials Review Committee this spring. The cost of the textbooks will be funded by CTIG. Additional instructional materials include software and hardware at an estimated cost of no more than $11,000, which will be funded by Perkins and CTIG. It is recommended that the board approve the addition of the CTE pathway, Production and Managerial Arts, and the course descriptions for Film Production 1 and 2 as presented.
Move recommended action.
Second.
Oh.
I have a motion in 2 seconds. Any comments or questions? Kurt?
Actually, so first, I'm thrilled with adding this. Any additional opportunities we give our students is great. And I want to thank you for providing sort of the business side of this too. It's really our job up here to manage the business in addition to a lot of other things. But it's very helpful to understand not only the content of the coursework, but the economics of it as well. So thank you for providing that for us. Appreciate it.
Just to mention, one of our students at Burroughs was a filmmaker that did filming on the TV series The Chosen and also the Jesus Revolution. It's Laurie Ochoa's son, and he's been a big part of the filming of both those. And so I think that's kind of cool that we can ever get him to come back. That might be a great person for a guest speaker in those filmmaking classes.
I'll tell the teacher I had her come in case she had
Great.
questions, because
I think
my
it's
forte.
I think it's Arturo Ochoa. I think is that who it is? Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree with what you guys said. So it sounds like Melanie is going to be our subject matter expert and will be teaching this, but you're currently in the English department, if I remember right. I know it's kind of a large department at Burroughs, but will that leave a void or negative consequence moving from there to there? I mean, I just want to make sure we're not robbing Peter to pay Paul.
No.
Okay.
From what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, Melanie, that you're going to do this is a double period course because you have to have 300 hours of CTE to complete a pathway. So I think she's going to do 2 classes of this, and then the rest English, 3 classes? Okay. So
I was just curious. So.
yeah, I knew that was going to be a question because of our teacher shortage. So.
Well, no, I mean, but I don't care whether it's a teacher. I don't care whether it's any of the industry. I heard the animal speaking the other day, and they're having the same issue with retention. And I think all of us have a problem with recruitment and retention, no matter what industry you're in throughout the state. Well, throughout the nation, probably. So, but no, I appreciate it. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
So one other contact for you too, and it's kind of fun to say it, and I know Mr. Ferris knows lots of people that he could help you with, but David Mullen, who was a classmate of mine, he has won he's a cinematographer, and so he's won an Emmy for Marvelous Miss Maisel, and he won an American Society of Cinematographer Award, I think last night or the night before was their dinner, so you want him, so I can help you hook up there.
I just want to comment, I agree with the others. It's really exciting to see how we can continue to offer breadth of opportunities to our students and get them prepared for the outside world in many different areas. And sometimes it's an opportunity to see what you don't want to do. So it can go either way, right? Any other questions or comments from board members? Any questions or comments from members of the public? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously. Brings us to item 7, policy development and review. Item number 1, adoption of board policy and administrative regulation 6178.1, work-based learning.
The first reading of BP and AR 6178.1, work-based learning, was on February 16th, 2023. Board Policy and Administrative Regulation 6178.1 describe the work experience education opportunities offered for high school career technical education students, which link classroom learning with real-world experiences. There are no financial implications, and it is the superintendent's recommendation to adopt Board Policy and Administrative Regulation 6178.1, work-based learning, as presented.
Move the recommended action.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from board members? Questions or comments from members of the public? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously. Brings us to 7.2, approval of revisions to Board Policy 6164.2, Guidance Counseling Service. Dr. Savko.
Good evening, President Ferris, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Ostash, staff, and community. The Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction has reviewed selected board policies and administrative regulations as a result of recommendations for revisions from the California School Boards Association, CSBA, Policy Service. All proposed policy and administrative regulation revisions reflect recent changes in applicable state and/or federal laws and regulations. Board Policy 6164.2, Guidance Counseling Services, has been revised to reflect the following. Expand the governing board's philosophical statement to include student well-being. Assembly Bill 2508 passed in 2022, which 1, urges districts to adopt a comprehensive educational counseling program, and for districts that provide such services to implement a structured and coherent counseling program within a multi-tiered systems of support framework. 2, revises the definition of educational counseling. 3, amends the legislative intent of the responsibilities of school counselors. 4, requires educational counseling to include specified post-secondary services. And 5, revises the components that educational counseling is required and authorized to include. It also reflects the changes made by Assembly Bill 643 passed in 2021, which encourages districts to host apprenticeship and/or career technical education fair events, such as college and career fairs, and for districts that do hold such events to notify apprenticeship programs in their county as specified. There are no financial implications. It's the superintendent's recommendation to approve the revisions to Board Policy 6164.2, Guidance Counseling Services, as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from board members? Any questions or comments from members of the public? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously. It brings us to personnel administration.
Move 8.1 through 8.3. Second.
I have a motion for 8.1 through 8.3. Any comments or questions on item 3? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? It is unanimous. That brings us to 8.4, authorization of new classified position, registered behavioral technician, RBT. Mr. Ault.
Good evening, President Ferris, members of the board, Superintendent Ostash, and staff and community. As is the trend across the state, the district's percentage of students with disabilities has increased significantly over the past several years, from approximately 12% to actually, I think this has now hit 20% currently. As the percentages have increased, so has the volume and frequency of high-level student behaviors. To best serve students who require multiple tiers of intervention, The district has recently added a number of classified and certificated positions to provide additional support for both the student and the staff, specifically classroom teachers and site administration. The Registered Behavior Technician, RBT, is a classified position who work directly under the supervision of the district's Board Certified Behavior Analyst, BCBA. The RBT will assist with the implementation and monitoring of behavior intervention plans and skill acquisition programs. In addition, the RBT will provide training and will model how to implement behavior plans for teachers and paraprofessionals. Finally, the RBT will assist the BCBA with observations and data collection for assessments. The district is proposing to place the position of Registered Behavior Technician, RBT, at range 32 on the classified salary scale. The pay range for range 32 is between $21.36 and $25.96 per hour. It is the superintendent's recommendation that the board approve the classified position, Registered Behavior Technician, as presented.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions from board members? Questions or comments from members of the public? Oh, go ahead, Mr. Rockwell.
So this is a new position, potentially theoretically adding to the staff?
Correct.
And do we expect to be able to hire somebody like this anytime soon? I mean, we have a challenge with positions with less educational requirements and things, and what are our, I mean, that's not a reason not to approve the position, but right. I'm just curious about what the likelihood is that we have, a local workforce that will be able to.
So there's, I'll answer that in two ways. One way, obviously, Mr. Delbeck has brought to the board a number of agenda items which ask for approval to use a vendor or to contract out a position. That might be necessary, it might not be. One thing that we do have, though, is even though our pool of staff is short, we do have certain people that have an interest and have training in specific areas. And in this particular area, we do have somebody that we believe will be qualified.
Any other questions or comments from board members? Questions or comments from members of the public? If you have a question or comment, please step up to the podium. Please step up to the podium so that we can hear on. Yeah, it's being televised, so thank you.
So my question is, how is this position different than the on-site TOSAs that we have presently at our schools?
Thank you.
So Ms. Kratz is referring to the TOSAs, Teachers on Special Assignment, that are at the secondary sites that provide additional support, specifically with regards to behavior intervention and so forth. The TOSAs are available to all the students, any student that's in need. They're a resource that's available throughout the school day, whereas this particular position would be used to assist students with IEPs that have specific behavior plans and goals. And so this is more targeted. Mm-hmm.
Thank you for the question. Any other questions or comments from members of the public? All in favor say aye. 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 Opposed? It is unanimous. Brings us to item 5, authorization of a new classified position, lead groundskeeper, senior skilled utility craftsperson. Mr. Auld.
The district currently employs 5 grounds workers who are charged with the maintenance of 10 school sites and 2 district auxiliary sites. In addition to general landscape maintenance, the grounds workers are responsible for athletic field maintenance at each site, which is especially rigorous at the district's secondary sites. For example, Burroughs High School, the district's most work-intensive site, has 5 large playing fields that must be maintained, which includes competition preparations on a weekly basis. Currently, the Director of Maintenance is responsible for managing the grounds department and supervising the workers. However, the size of the department and the scope of work has evolved in such a manner that it has become necessary to create a lead hybrid position that allows for additional flexibility and a specialized skill set while balancing the complex workload of the maintenance department. The grounds workers and this position will remain within the maintenance department and under the supervision of the Director of Maintenance. The addition of this position, however, will provide additional support to the Director of Maintenance because the lead groundskeeper, senior skilled utility craftsperson will take on tasks such as, but not limited to, scheduling, supervising prioritizations of projects, and ordering materials and supplies. The lead groundskeeper, senior skilled utility craftsperson will be compensated at range 37 on the classified salary schedule. It is the superintendent's recommendation that the board approve the classified position lead groundskeeper, senior skilled utility craftsperson as presented.
Move recommended action.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from board members? Mr. Scott.
So basically, we're filling a vacant position?
No.
Well, I mean, we're not creating a new position. This is a new position, but we're not creating a new FTE, I should say.
Correct.
So I'm assuming this is going to be filled internally, not external? It's going to be open up just to internal candidates?
In the job description that's attached, for those who qualify and apply internally, they would have, if there are more than one, it would be a competitive process. If not, it would be based on seniority.
Competitive process, interview, test too, or not?
Interview what?
Interview and a test as well, or strictly interview?
The eligibility has to do with, there is a test, but there's also competencies in certain trades, and but the competitive process would be an interview with which we have a practice of having a committee interview that would interview both candidates, 3 candidates, 4 candidates, whatever it might be.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments from board members? Questions or comments from members of the public? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Brings us to item 6, approval of non-reelection of certificated personnel with less than preliminary credential as a result of the decision of the California 5th District Court of Appeals. Mr. Auld.
And in 2006, 2007, as a result of the 5th Appellate Court decision regarding the Bakersfield Elementary Teachers Association versus Bakersfield City School District, the Sierra Sands Unified School District modified procedures in compliance with the 5th Appellate Court and non-reelected all certificated employees working on the basis of less than a preliminary credential. In compliance with this court decision, and to preserve the integrity of the layoff seniority list, council has advised the district to seek board authorization to non-reelect certificated employees who are employed by the district for 2022-23 school year on the basis of less than preliminary credentials issued by the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing. The district will not be able to offer reemployment to any of the impacted employees until after July 1, 2023. Following board approval, sorry, my glasses are failing me. They're readers, so. Following board approval, the employees will all receive a non-reelection letter from the district prior to March 15, 2023, as required by California Education Code. This allows the district to release these employees without cause, effective at the end of 2022-23 school year, and eliminates the issue of accruing seniority without being fully credentialed. It also allows the district to recruit, as it has previously done for fully credentialed teachers, for these positions before hiring those not fully credentialed. If the district is unable to employ fully credentialed teachers in any of these positions, it may reemploy any or all of these impacted employees for the 2023-24 school district. Financial implications are unknown. There is potential for additional unemployment insurance costs to the district as a result of this action. It is the superintendent's recommendation that the board approve the non-reelection of the certificated employees employed by the district for the 22-23 school year on less than a preliminary credential as presented.
Move recommended action. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from board members? Mr. Rockwell.
So this comes up every year now, and I hate it every year. You know, we got some great people that we have a stressful summer potentially as we do this. I'm just kind of curious, what in the past, just off the top of your head, I'm not looking for a specific number, but on average, how many of the folks that we non-reelect for this reason don't get rehired if they choose to for the following year?
How many we don't rehire?
No, how many do we rehire?
Oh.
Just, well, I guess either way.
Right. So I'm glad you asked a question because it allows me to birdwalk a little bit. I would like to acknowledge that every year prior to this coming up at the March board meeting, we hold a meeting with all of these employees that are affected by this. And we are very assertive and very clear in the fact that this is required by law and that by no means are we attempting to separate our employment with them other than this technicality, and that we do intend to hire most, if not all of them back. And to get to your question, I would say probably between 80 and 90%, but I think that's a little bit misleading because some people are moving or leaving the community in any case that we would have hired back. There are some cases, because it takes some people more than a year to complete their credential, whom they've had this experience for 2 or 3 years, who are still working for us.
Okay, yeah, thank you, and thank you for bird walking and not moonwalking.
I could do that.
Any other questions or comments from board members?
They have up to 5 years, is that the total time that they have to get a clear credential to be on an emergency, or does it have to happen before that?
It's a little bit more complicated than that. It depends on the type of waiver or permit that the employee is on. It also has to do with subject matter, if it's multiple subject or single subject. And the proficiency exams or assessments that the state requires, and so there isn't an easy answer to that question. But there's a requirement for them to work towards it. Right. They can't not take coursework and be enrolled in a program and keep having an emergency permit reissued.
But as I understand, the real crux of this is so that seniority isn't gained because their continuous employment is broken.
Right.
And that meets the letter of the law for that purpose.
Right, because
as
when they're
uncomfortable as it may be for everyone.
If and when there is if a layoff is required, we have an obligation to maintain our seniority records, and in an effort to keep them true and accurate, there has to be a separation of employment based on the court case.
Thank you for clarifying that. Any other questions from board members? Any other questions or comments from members of the public? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Item 7, adoption of Resolution 282223, reducing or eliminating certificated services for the 23-24 school year. Mr. Auld.
Enrollment in the district's independent study program increased significantly during the 2021-2022 school year. This was due to the impact of COVID-19 on in-person instruction and subsequent restrictions and/or health mandates issued by the California Department of Public Health. With the restrictions and the health mandates being lifted during the 2022-23 school year, enrollment in the district's independent study program has declined significantly. As such, enrollment projections for 2023-24 do not justify current staffing levels. In an effort to maintain a system of fiscal responsibility, district staff constantly reviews staffing ratios. Since the enrollment projections for the 2023-24 school year do not justify three FTEs, teachers, it is necessary to reduce the staffing ratio for the independent study program by 1 FTE. Financial implications, the district can project an approximate cost savings of $115,000 with the reduction of the position identified in resolution number 28. It is the superintendent's recommendation that the Board of Education adopt resolution number 28, reducing or eliminating certificated services for the 2003-24 school year as presented.
Move it action. Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions or comments, board members? Mr. Rockwell.
This is just quick, and it's actually a request unless it's something that doesn't make sense. Just tell me I don't make sense, and I'll be comfortable with that.
I'm not comfortable telling you that.
Well, I hear it all the time.
I would love to.
Yeah. Come talk to Mr. Ferris. But in this one, you gave us a sort of a full dollar number that, the impact. Some of the earlier ones, there were hourly rates quoted, and others there were, what's the right word?
The range.
The range, place on the salary schedule. This one, it's easy for me to process and understand, hey, this is what the cost is. When I hear a place on a spreadsheet that I don't have in front of me, I don't really know what it means. So just unless there's a reason for doing it different ways like that, I'd sure love it if it was always like this, where there was a number that we could say, this is what it's gonna cost us.
Well, I can tell you
this is
what
what's gonna save us.
the difference is that it has to do with the classification of the employee or the position. This one being a certificated employee, which it is a lot less complicated to determine what the overall cost is as opposed to when it is support staff or classified. The day, the hourly, the hours vary, and so it could still compute it though. That wouldn't be a problem to get an estimate.
Okay. And like I said, if I'm the only one that cares, then forget it. But if other people would prefer to see a simple number for simple minds like mine, and it'd be great.
Any other questions or comments for members? Questions or comments, members of the public? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Brings us to item 8, adoption of Resolution 27-2223, determination of seniority among certificated employees with the same first date of service. Mr. Alls.
Despite significant efforts, the district has not been able to fully staff the transportation department. Specifically, the district has not had sufficient school bus drivers since the beginning of the 2022-23 school year. Consequently, there have been ongoing delays between routes.
Are we talking the same?
Did I skip one?
I think you may have skipped 8.
Yeah, 8.
These readers.
I was looking to try and figure if I skipped it or you skipped it. So.
I'm going to have to move up the strength of these readers again. Sorry about that. The Board of Education has determined with the adoption of Resolution Number 27 that there is a need to reduce or eliminate certificated staff for the 2023-24 school year. In the case of a reduction in certificated staff, adoption of Resolution 27 provides a vehicle by which the district can determine the order of termination between employees who first rendered paid services to the district on the same date. The order of determination will be based on the needs of the district and the students as listed in the resolution. These criteria will be applied in determining the order of termination. There are no financial implications. It's the superintendent's recommendation that the Board of Education adopt Resolution Number 27, reducing or eliminating certificated services for the 23-24 school year as presented.
Move recommended action.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from board members? Questions or comments from members of the public? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Now we move to item 9, adoption of Resolution 26-2223, discontinuation of service and layoff and reduction of classified employees for the 23-24 school year. Mr. Auld.
Despite significant efforts, the district has not been able to fully staff the transportation department. Specifically, the district has not had sufficient school bus drivers since the beginning of the 22-23 school year. Consequently, there have been ongoing delays between routes, which created a challenging situation, especially at the 2 late start elementary sites, Pierce and Richmond. In an effort to provide sufficient student supervision, the district agreed to pay a number of paraprofessionals who voluntarily agreed to provide the additional services extra hours to remain on site and supervise until the buses arrived. In general, this added an additional hour to the paraprofessionals' regular 5.5-hour shift. As described in subsection B of Article 6, hours of the collective bargaining agreement between the California School Employees Association and its Chapter 188 and the Sierra Sands Unified School District, an employee who is assigned to work a minimum of 30 minutes per day in excess of a part-time assignment for a period of 20 consecutive working days or more shall have the basic assignment changed to reflect the longer hours. Per this agreement in the CBA, each paraprofessional who has worked the additional hours has had their basic assignment changed to reflect the longer hours. In an effort to maintain a system of fiscal responsibility, district staff constantly reviews staffing ratios. In addition, district staff also reviews staffing schedules. It is the district's intention to resolve the bus driver shortage for the 23-24 school year, which would eliminate the need for the additional student supervision. As such, it is fiscally responsible that the district take the appropriate steps to reduce the current hours for each paraprofessional FTE where it was extended by 1 hour. As a result, the paraprofessional positions being addressed will return to the number of hours originally assigned. The fiscal implications, the district projects an approximate cost savings of $41,863.11. This includes salaries and statutory benefits, with the reduction of the hours per position identified in resolution number 26. It is the superintendent's recommendation that the Board of Education adopt resolution number 26, reducing or eliminating classified services for the 23-24 school year as presented.
Move the recommended action. Second.
A motion and a second. Any questions or comments from board members? Questions or comments from members of the public? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Move to item 10, presentation of initial sunshine contract proposal for the 23-24 school year from the...
One person in the audience has been waiting all night for this.
Oh, should we move this to the end of the that?
No. So the Desert Area Guidance Association will submit their sunshine proposal to the Board of Education for the 23-24 school year. Thank you. The financial implications are unknown. It's the superintendent's recommendation that the board receive the initial sunshine contract proposal from the Desert Area Guidance Association.
Move the recommended action.
Actually, we have received it, so we're done. We move to item 11, presentation of initial sunshine contract proposal from the 23-24 school year from the Board of Education to Chapter 188 of the California School Employees Association.
The Board of Education would like to submit their sunshine proposal to Chapter 188 of the California School Employees Association for the 23-24 school year. Once this is approved, I would share that with Ms. Payanis, who is also in the audience. The financial implications are unknown. It is the superintendent's recommendation that the board present the initial sunshine contract proposal for the 23-24 school year to Chapter 188 of the California School Employees Association.
Move to recommended action.
Second.
Been moved and second. You may go ahead and present.
Awesome.
Oh, I guess I better vote first. Huh? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous.
She's probably been waiting a long time too, huh? Yeah.
That brings us to general administration, 9.1, 2023 governance handbook revisions. Dr. Ostash.
That will be me. We have, and this is a great mark of the success of having a governance handbook. We've talked about this a few times the last couple of years, and we've talked about the background information, the importance of a board working together as a high-performing team with a vision. And on January 11, the board and I met in a special board meeting workshop to review and consider updates to the Sierra Sands Unified School District Governance Handbook. As a result of the efforts put forth during the workshop, we now have an updated governance handbook, which is attached, and it's presented for formal review. And the purpose of bringing this in a review, there won't be any action on this item, is that if there are any other further suggestions, I would be happy to consider those and integrate them, and then bring a final version of this handbook at the April 20 board meeting for formal adoption. I actually don't think it needs to be formally adopted as it has been, but if you want to take action as an update, I just think it would be a nice touch. I think the most important part of this whole process is that it's a process. The actual governance handbook doesn't collect dust, and we're constantly reminding ourselves of the work that we've put into this collaboratively, and and always growing as a team. So my recommendation is that the board, if it wishes, holds a discussion on this topic, or provides any subsequent contributions that I can integrate into a final review.
So board members, you have seen the updated document. Did you have any comments or questions on the recommended suggestions for clarification and update? Mr. Rockwell?
Yeah, I just have a correction or two that I'll send you, just
Okay.
rather than
Thank you.
trying to edit it real time here.
That'll be great.
Any other questions or comments? Any questions or comments from members of the public? And we will move on to item 10, construction administration. Report to the board on construction activities and issues. Mr. Coit.
President Ferris, members of the board, Superintendent Ostash, staff, and community. It's my pleasure to present this construction.
I'm sorry, Mr. Coit, I'm having a hard time hearing you. Is
Oh.
that microphone on?
I can get a little closer.
There we go.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
So it's my pleasure to present this update. The item is for informational purposes only, and no action is required. So the real test is going to be, did I pick the wrong font size, and am I going to be able to read the small print? Or do I bring my bifocals next week?
If you need help, Brian will be glad to help.
Okay. So our projects, just a quick overview: New Richmond School, HVAC replacement, and Burroughs Pack air handler repairs, electric bus yard, Fowler preschool playground, additional TK classrooms, and Fowler school fence. So that's the projects that we're working on right now. Richmond School, that was a couple days before we broke ground, and I couldn't help but take a picture with the sun rising with a little bit of filtering from the clouds. And for Richmond School, just quickly to go through where we're at. So we broke ground this week. Modular buildings are still awaiting DSA approval. Site work contracts have been issued, and that's the small print that I can't read, but we just had those contracts before you, so that's our contracts that are in place. And then we have contracts that are out for bid for site work. Those bid packages are out right now. They're advertised with Colombo, and we'll be opening bids for most of those on the 15th. Remaining bid packages are still being developed, so that's kind of how the project is moving forward. And there we are with the big Tonka toy out there starting to move dirt. Right? HVAC replacement and BHS air handler repairs. I'm very happy to say the BHS air handler repairs and control upgrades are complete. Fowler School rooftop unit installation and BAS upgrades are complete. So coming up this summer, and actually some of this will happen over spring break, we have an issue with Marvair heat pumps, and anyone here from Fowler will attest to that, I think. We're working through those issues. They'll be up next week making some repairs, but we have to work through that, and there'll be more to come on this item. Los Flores, we're going to be replacing rooftop HVAC units, upgrading controls. The library building has a roof that's non-conforming. We're replacing the roof on the library building this summer. And the MPR will get air conditioning instead of the swamp cooling that we've had there in the past. And then Inyo Kern School also gets the HVAC upgrades, and it's our, if weather permits over spring break, we'll get the rooftop units changed out the last week of this month. Sierra Vista Center bus yard, so the Edison work is complete with the exception of a transformer that Edison is waiting on. And our work, which is the paving, chain link, gates and fencing, is out for bid right now with currently the opening is supposed to be on the 16th. I believe that one's moving back because of a delay on the openers, so that may push back a little bit. But I should have that to you, had the bids to you or contracts in either in this next board meeting or one after that. Fowler Preschool Playground. This is taking much too long. bids are now out, and we'll be opening them on the 16th. The actual equipment and the installation, we're under contract for that, and we'll be receiving that equipment within the next couple weeks, storing it until we actually get the construction moving. So it's a little hard to read. I think that's the layout of the preschool playground as designed. TK classrooms. So we're going to be installing 2 additional TK classrooms to be used for the 23-24 school year. The bid openings for those classrooms, just the buildings themselves, will be the 16th of March. And then we're currently developing the plans with Ortiz Melby Architects. And 1 classroom is scheduled to be installed at Fowler School and 1 at Los Flores School. So these are triple wide portable buildings that will be installed much like the other kinders are at Los Flores. They'll be on not on slab, but they'll be on stem wall or pit set. And we think that gives us a lot better value. The buildings hold up a lot better. Fowler fencing plan, there's been an interest in upgrading the security for the campuses, and Ortiz Melby Architects has developed a preliminary plan, which I have to bring to the school site tomorrow to try to get buy-in. It's moving quickly, and this is going to go to DSA as an over-the-counter at the end of this month. So once we get DSA approval, we'll go out to bid for that fencing, and it looks like there's a possibility of getting that done over the summer. So I was pleased to hear that they're going to take it as an over-the-counter. And that was it. Any questions?
This was information only. Mr. Scott?
Yeah, just a quick question on the Richmond modular DSA. Do we have an idea when we might get approval, or is it easier to ask you what the winning lottery tickets are going to be next week?
Well, they were speculating mid-March. We're getting pretty close. I was in a KCSOS meeting listening to Doug Humphreys earlier this week, and Mr. Humphreys is the head of DSA in Los Angeles, and he admitted they were having a backlog, but he promised us all that the backlog was clearing, and they were going to get things moving along again. I wanted to ask specifically about our project, but thought better of it. But, you know, I think every trade, every profession we're dealing with is going through the same thing we're talking about. He mentioned that DSA gave out the state order to come back to the office, and there was so much pushback that they work remotely Mondays and Fridays, and they're in the office Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And they have had people choose to not return because they were no longer living in the area as they were working remotely. So as he mentioned to us that everything was going a lot better, he also asked if there were any architects or engineers in the meeting that they wanted to go to work for the state. So I think that goes across every, our CMs, our architects, everybody's having that, just not having enough staff. So it's difficult to, I think for about 9 months in a row, I stood before you and said, I believe next month we're going to have the grant funded. So I'm being more careful about that. But what I will start bringing for the future updates, we'll have the financials in there, and I will bring you the project schedule as agreed upon at that time. I think that will be helpful. And some of you that have been through this a few times know that schedule slips occasionally. But I think we'll be ready for some financials and some more solid schedules in the April board meeting.
Mr. Rockwell.
So at the risk of being mobbed by some Pierce administration or teachers, or I noticed on there where you were looking at upgrading the HVAC over the summer. But I also know we've been looking pretty hard at OLDCC and a new Pierce. Obviously that takes a couple of years, so I hate to have staff and kids sweating for a couple of years, but I'm just kind of curious if there's not a, I mean, is the juice worth the squeeze if if we feel good about our ability to get a new Pierce?
We have had that conversation. These units, and this contract was led, and these units were purchased before last year when we got that news from OLDCC. And the decision was at that time just to go ahead and fulfill the contract. We could always remove the rooftop units and save them for future use in the district. But as you know, a change order in a contract, usually a deductive change order doesn't get you much value back in a contract. And so that was our reasoning to just go ahead and move forward with the installation of the units.
Okay, makes sense. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you so much, Mr. Coy.
Thank you.
Brings us to Business Administration, 11.1, approval of second interim report for fiscal year 2022-23. Ms. McGuire.
Good evening, President Ferris, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Ostash, staff, and community. In accordance with California Education Code 42130 through 42131, no later than 45 days after the close of each reporting period, the school district governing board shall approve the second interim financial report. There was a typo in there. And certify in writing the school district is able to meet its financial obligations for the remainder of the fiscal year and based on current projection for 2 subsequent fiscal years. Twice each fiscal year, school district governing boards are required to certify the district's ability to meet its financial obligations for the remainder of the current and 2 subsequent fiscal years. There are 3 different certifications of financial condition: positive, qualified, or negative certification. A positive certification indicates the district will be able to meet its financial obligations for the current and 2 subsequent fiscal years. Based on the reports as presented, Sierra Sands Unified School District has a positive certification for the 22-23 second interim and both subsequent fiscal years. The financial implications of the second interim report are the following changes are reflected in the 22-23 second interim report. For unrestricted revenue, local control funding formula, LCFF revenues, reflect an increase of $828,000 due to increases in projected average daily attendance and unduplicated pupil percentage. Other local revenue increases reflect the anticipated reimbursements from bus purchase grants. Expenditures reflect increases in certificated and classified salaries and benefits due to a thorough reconciliation of position control. Books and supplies, services, and other operating expenses reflect the alignment of costs across the elements of expense. And capital outlay increases reflect the planned purchase of 3 diesel and 6 electric buses. Under restricted revenue, federal revenue increase of $45,500 reflects the updates to the Title I apportionment. A decrease to other state revenue of $816,000 reflects the anticipated reduction of the arts, music, and instructional materials block grant per the governor's January budget. Increases in restricted other local revenue reflect the receipt of a one-time pass-through of redevelopment agency funds. Certificated and classified salaries and benefits increases are the result of adjusting expenses of the Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant in alignment with planned implementation, and reductions in other elements of expense are corresponding to the alignment of those elements of expense to the planned usage. Staff members continue to monitor cash flow to ensure there is sufficient cash to meet all obligations. The district is projected to continue to deficit spend over the next several years. While one-time revenues have mitigated the immediate risk to the district, a careful review of current programs and their expenditures is necessary, including the obligations connected to the supplemental and grant funding as part of the LCFF. The key to protecting fiscal flexibility and solvency in an uncertain environment includes maintaining adequate reserves to allow for unanticipated circumstances. A 5% reserve for economic uncertainty has been sustained between the general fund and Fund 17 special reserves for the current fiscal year. In line with district practice, this report has been formulated in accordance with the guidelines provided by the California Department of Education, the Fiscal Crisis and Management Assistance Team, Kern County Superintendent of Schools, and School Services of California. It is the superintendent's recommendation that the Sierra Sands Unified School District Board of Trustees approve the 22-23 second interim budget as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments by board members? Mr. Rockwell.
Is it any coincidence that the governor's intended plan to reduce the arts, music, and instructional materials instructional block grant looks like about roughly equal to the amount that's being promised by Prop 28?
No, Proposition 28 funding was a mandate by the voters to provide arts, music, instructional funding, and resides outside of Proposition 98 funding for school districts. Therefore, it has no, it's just a coincidence. It's not correlated at all.
Any other questions or comments from board members? I had a comment and then a question. The comment was that, just for informational purposes, one of the items that specifically is being lobbied by the California School Boards Association is that reduction, recommended reduction by the governor on that subject. Because in general, it is felt that across the state, many districts had already made commitments based on that allocation, and that the governor should look, the legislature should look elsewhere to find those dollars. So, and specifically in not creating new programs. So, hopefully we may prevail in that, but who knows? And then the other question I had was on the same general restricted fund budget, item 3, the pass-through, the one-time pass-through of redevelopment agency funds. That kind of piqued my interest because I hadn't seen that in a while. As my understanding of the original formation of that redevelopment agency, it was a capture of increase in property tax that was offset to the local district by backfill. So is this an actual net gain, even though it's from the redevelopment fees?
It is a net gain. So the RDA, or redevelopment agency funds, you actually do see them. You just don't usually see them at second interim. They do occur annually. They are very fluid in their amounts. And I don't typically see them deposited before the end of January, which is what the first interim, or the second interim period ends, is January 31st. And in my due diligence to make sure that all the revenues were being acknowledged, I noticed that those funds had been deposited, so I acknowledged them in the budget. But typically you'll see those at the estimated actuals time period. And you are correct, the RDA was dissolved, and they were funded by property taxes that could have been paid to the school districts and weren't. And so since the dissolution of the RDAs, those dollars are being repaid to those districts that were affected, and they're being paid back incrementally. There's no rhyme or reason as to the amount. It just depends on whatever the funding can support that year.
I just find that fascinating since originally the capture was backfilled.
I don't really have all of that.
I'm not complaining.
Right? I don't really have all of that history, but I do recall in 2018, prior to Mrs. Smith joining, we had Dennis Franey as our interim CBO from the county office. And during that 4 to 6 month time period, I learned so much from him about a lot of different things that I would never have thought to look at. And that's one of them. And in fact, it's interesting, a couple of weeks ago, Mr. Franey reached out to me and said, hey, are we still receiving those RDA funds? And if you are, can you tell me some more about your district and how it works? And I was able to provide him with the information and help him in his mission to make sure that other districts that are affected are getting their fair share.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from board members? Any other questions or comments from members of the public? And we have a motion for approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. That brings us to item 2, approval of contract with Debt Book for professional services relating to compliance with Governmental Accounting Standards Board, GADSB, statement number 96, subscription-based information technology arrangements. Ms. McGuire.
So, I've never brought a contract to the board before, so this is my first header doing so. The background information about this is the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, or GASB, has compliance requirements for statement number 96 regarding subscription-based information technology arrangements, or SBITA. Governments and government entities are required to account for vendors' software and associated tangible capital assets for subscriptions. This is an audit compliance. This service contract with DebtBook will provide the district with the support required to first identify all of the SBITA-related services currently used in all aspects of district functions. GASB 96 is a compliance requirement and will be part of the annual financial audits beginning with the 22-23 fiscal year and beyond. DebtBook will review all of our arrangements and provide support to identify and report on appropriate and applicable agreements that will meet the audit compliance requirements. The cost is approximately $45,000 annually, and it is based on the number of agreements the district has. The initial implementation adds a one-time setup fee. Basically, they're going to do all the work for me for $5,000. And it is the superintendent's recommendation that this Board of Trustees approve the entering into a contract with DebtBook.
Recommending action to approve it.
Have a motion. Did I hear a second?
Yeah.
Second? Any questions or comments from board members? Questions or comments from members of the public? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Brings us to item 12. We will temporarily adjourn the meeting of the Sierra Sands Unified, did I skip? Oops, I'm sorry, item 3. Approval of Sierra Sands Unified School District Transportation Plan for Home to School Transportation Reimbursement, AB 181. Ms. Smith.
Good evening, President Ferris, members of the board, Superintendent Ostash, staff and community. So the Home to School Transportation Reimbursement was implemented by Assembly Bill 181 and amended by Assembly Bill 185. It provides reimbursement funding for school districts and county offices of education based on the prior year eligible transportation expenditures and a prior year LCFF transportation related add-on funding. In accordance with Ed Code 39800.1, we must develop a plan describing the transportation services that will be offered to its pupils and how it will prioritize those services for pupils in transitional kindergarten, any grade 1 through 6 inclusive, and pupils who are low income. The plan must be adopted by the LEA's governing board on or before April 1st, 2023, and updated by April 1st each year thereafter. Pursuant to Ed Code 39800.1, the district has developed the attached plan. The plan describes the following: the transportation services that will be offered to the pupils and how it will prioritize those services to those pupils in transitional kindergarten grades 1 through 6, and pupils who are low income. Transportation services that will be accessible to pupils with disabilities and homeless children and youth. How unduplicated pupils will be able to access available home to school transportation at no cost to the pupils, and how the district plans to consult with educational partners, local air pollution control district, and regional transit authorities. This plan was developed in accordance with the Kern County Superintendent of Schools recommended template. It is anticipated that transportation reimbursement will be approximately $697,000 based on eligible 21-22 transportation expenditures. It is the superintendent's recommendation that the board approve the district transportation plan for home to school transportation reimbursement as presented.
Recommend action. Second.
So moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from board members? Mr. Rockwell.
So is the entirety of this $700,000 money we would not have gotten if those bills hadn't passed?
Yes.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
If I may, Mr. Rockwell and Mr. Ferris, I do want to acknowledge that there are a lot of superintendents and a lot of political advocacy with CSBA, and when I meant a lot of administrators in Kern County, there's a lot of transportation departments. There has been advocacy for years on this, and I do think that sustained advocacy with our local legislators in Kern County, also with CSBA, we really were able to move the needle on this because I think we get around $500,000 a year for transportation through our ordinary allocation. So this more than doubles that. And so the advocacy that really we'd go to Sacramento once a year, and so it really kind of played out here, and we got a good net result. So that was good. We got in when the money was good, and hopefully it can hold it.
I really appreciate that commentary because I know I've mentioned several times about the importance of this kind of work as a Board of Education. And I think we can look back over the last 10 years, and there are several key issues that have affected funding and financing in public education in California that are a direct result of this kind of push and this kind of advocacy that would not be in place if it hadn't happened. And so I know we often fight a lot of battles that we feel are losing battles, and we don't get there. And so I think we need to celebrate the ones that we are successful in and keep reminding ourselves of what they are so that it keeps us motivated to continue the good fight on behalf of our students, because it makes a significant difference in a very big way.
And if I can add just one more detail, is that this does help us a great deal, but it still does not fully fund us. We still choose to voluntarily, a lot of districts have elected over the last decade or so to disband their transportation department and contract out to transport only those students who are required to be transported as spelled out in their IEP. We locally choose to continue to provide transportation services to regular education students, and it costs the district over $2 million to do that per year. And so by receiving this additional funds, it brings us more to about $1.2 million in reimbursement for something that costs over $2 million. So we continue to use our local control accountability plan and some of our supplemental dollars that we have local discretion over using, and we still continue to invest those dollars to backfill that program. We value the program, but I just wanted to make sure we all had that corporate knowledge that it still is an underfunded program.
Thank you. And again, those are the kinds of things I think it really is critical that we re-educate ourselves on, so we understand what struggles we've been through, what we've gained. That understanding history is an important element, I think, for what we do. Well, let's see. I don't think we voted yet, did we? Were there any other questions, comments by board members?
I was just going to say that if we didn't have busing, we really have a problem with kids coming to school. So I think in the end, we probably going to make more money.
Any questions or comments from members of the public? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Now we will temporarily adjourn the meeting of the Sierra Sands Unified School District to convene the meeting of the Inyo Kern Schools Financing Authority. Item 1 is adoption of the agenda. Any changes?
No changes.
There are no changes. Item 2 is approval of minutes. They will stand unless there are corrections. We will move to item 3, mid-year Inyo Kern Schools Financing Authority fiscal update. Ms. McGuire.
I'm back. In 1990, Sierra Sands Unified School District and Lone Pine Unified School District formed the Inyo Kern Schools Financing Authority, affectionately termed ICSFA. As a result of this agreement, Lone Pine Unified agreed to make annual lease payments on the property leased from the authority by the Lone Pine Unified School District. The funds are held at the Kern County Treasury Tax Collector and are to be used for facility-related costs.
This item is presented to provide an update on the status of the fund balance held at Kern County Treasury Tax Collector. There are no financial implications, and this item is presented for informational purposes only.
So does anyone have any questions on this item? Any questions, members of the public?
I would like to make a comment. It's unusual for me to do that, but I wanted to let you know that at the rate of LCFF funding with the 13.26% COLA that we received this year, the Lone Pine Unified, which is a basic aid school district, was allowed because of those calculations to keep more of the funds than what we would typically see. And so I think we have now entered into the time where we'll see less revenue in this area, and so we'll need to shepherd it well.
So, thank you for that update. And again, historically, it's something to understand that the amount that Lone Pine receives of that is based on what difference it takes to bring them to basic aid.
Yes.
And so as that grows, then our allocation diminishes. Okay, any other questions or comments, members of the public, or members of the public or members of the board? Not, thank you so much. We will now adjourn the meeting of the Inyo Kern Schools Financing Authority and reconvene the meeting of the Sierra Sands Unified School District Board of Education. And we will move to the consent calendar.
Consent calendar. Second.
Consent calendar has been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from the board, from the public? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Any future agenda items? Hearing none, we will move to item 15, adjournment. The next regular meeting of the Board of Education will be April 20th. Thank you for coming and sticking it out with us.